Yo sup, this is CY3, and today we are going to be doing an introduction on the Metalfoes archetype. Now the Metalfoes are an archetype that came out in the most recent set called the Dark Illusions, and they are an archetype with direct synergy to Yang Zings, why we are talking about him today. Now the synergy is quite obvious, but for those of you who have not read what they do, I'm just going to get started with the introduction. And first off, we have the monsters. Currently, we have 4 Metalfoes main deck monsters released. All of them are pendulum monsters with scales ranging from 1 to 8. As monsters, they do nothing, they're vanillas. But as scales, they all have the shared effect of once per turn, you can target one other face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, set one Metalfoes spell trap card directly from your deck. So these guys are pretty much a replacement for Sky Iris. They do the same thing inside a Yang Zing deck, that is, simultaneously being or searching a scale while destroying any Yang Zing which can float into Jiaotu, your key combo piece. Much like Sky Iris, these guys have the end of you do key phrase, which means they will not make your Yang Zings miss timing. Also, unlike the Zephyr scales, these guys have no restrictions. That means you can pendulum summon anything between levels 2 and 7, which greatly increases the potential card pool that we can use. As for the artwork and lore, these guys are all riding on some sort of machine. We have a motorbike, quad bike, etc. And they somehow tie into the lore, which is the battle between Master Pendulum and Lecter Pendulum. They are all psychics and they are all fires, with the only thing differentiating them being their stats and their levels. And that is what we will mostly use to decide how many copies of each we would want to run in our deck. Now their naming are pretty cool. Each of the main deck monsters are named after some sort of metal. So we have steel, silver, and gold here, pretty obvious. And their extra deck monsters are named after some sort of fantasy metal which does not exist in the real world. They also have a lot of alchemy connotations just to make them slightly more cooler. Now in the Yang Zing deck, our tuners are predominantly levels 1 and 2. So going through the levels of the Metalfoes, Steelin is going to let us summon rank 2s, level 3 synchros, and level 4 synchros. Silvard is going to let us summon rank 3s, level 4 and 5 synchros. Gold Driver is going to let us summon rank 4s as well as levels 5 and 6 synchros, whereas Volflame is going to let us summon rank 7s as well as level 8 and 9 synchros. Just based on that, of course, the Gold Driver and Volflame are going to be slightly more useful than the lower level ones. There's another card released in the set, however, called Nirvana High Paladin, which is going to be much easier made with the lower Metalfoes, and it is a decent reason to up the count of the lower level Metalfoes compared to the higher level Metalfoes. Since the synchros we make naturally in the Yang Zing deck are levels 8 and 7, we are going to want Steelin and Silvard to access Nirvana more easier compared to Gold Driver and Volflame, which would need to be tuned with level 6 or level 3 synchro respectively. Stats wise, Gold Driver is the best, level 4 1900 beat stick, very good. Volflame is also pretty decent, although you can't just normal summon it, but being 2400 attack does make it a decent out to stuff like Majesty's Fiend if you can pendulum summon it. Silvard's 1700 attack is quite decent as well. Steelin does not have any attack, 2100 defense. 2100 defense can come in handy from time to time. These are the main deck monsters. Now, the Metalfoes spell and trap card that these guys can search. Let's take a look at those. There are 3 targets currently, being Metalfoes Counter, Metalfoes Combination, and a Metalfoes Fusion. This archetype also has a field spell called Metamorphomation. Unfortunately, it is not a Metalfoes spell or trap, so it cannot be searched, which is a great shame since If it can be searched, it could lead to some pretty good Ancient Fairy combos, which I guess could also be pretty degenerate. I mean, just look at Ghost Trick, Fallen Angel. She's pretty much just there to search you a random Ghost Trick field spell so that you can Ancient Fairy into your Fusion Gates and summon your Blaze Phoenixes and FTK people. That's out of the question. But the remaining 3 Metalfoes spell and traps, starting off with the one that I personally will not run in this deck, Metalfoes Counter. A Metalfoes Counter lets you summon Metalfoes from your deck when things are destroyed. It also lets you add Metalfoes which are face up in your extra deck to your hand by banishing it from the graveyard. So it has 2 different effects. Both are pretty decent, however being a trap makes it too slow for what we want to accomplish with the deck. Metalfoes Combination is a continuous trap. It's our main target in the deck. This is the one that you want to run at least one of, potentially 2 of, to make the combos go a bit further. Metalfoes Combination, when it is destroyed, lets you search any of our Metalfoe monsters from the deck. And since our Metalfoe monsters search Metalfoes Combination, you can see that what this trap essentially does is turn any Metalfoes into a Performer Power Monkey board. Since we have such easy access to Baxia, and Baxia is able to destroy this at any time, we can destroy this even more efficiently than a pure Metalfoes deck to search the opposite Metalfoes scale. This card does not have a hard once per turn on it, which means you can run more than one of this card. Combination also has a secondary effect which does require us to fusion summon, but if you do fusion summon while Combination is face up, you can special summon a Metalfoes from your graveyard. Our secondary search target is Metalfoes Fusion. Now Metalfoes Fusion, very rarely are we going to be trying to resolve its primary effect, which is to fusion summon a Metalfoes monster. If it is an option. Its main utility comes in its secondary effect, which is when it is in the graveyard, you can shuffle it back into your deck and draw 1. Since we cannot resolve our Metalfoe Scales popping effect without a target in our deck, what Metalfoes Fusion essentially does is make the Metalfoes engine last infinite, since it keeps putting itself back into the deck, and netting a +1 in the form of a draw is pretty decent. I mean, can't say no to draw 1. And we can put it into the graveyard very easily without even activating it and fusion summoning, and that is by destroying it with cards such as Baxia. So we talk about Metalfoe Fusion and how it can summon fusion monsters. What are our current options for Metalfoes Fusion monsters? Currently we have 3, all pretty bad choices in my opinion. The good one comes out next set in Invasion of Venom. The current 3, 2 of them has no effect, the other one has an effect which is not particularly relevant, but I'll go over them anyways. Adamante requires a Metalfoes monster and a monster with 2500 or less attack. So this is the easiest to summon one, and it is also a level 5 to fuel our synchro plays into higher levels. Metalfoes Crimsonite is a level 9, so we are probably not going to be exceeding or synchroing with this guy if we even manage to get it out. He's 3000 attack, the highest attack of all 3 Metalfoes fusion monsters. It requires a Metalfoes monster and 2 monsters with 3000 or less attack. Substantially harder to summon, requiring 3 materials instead of 2, and once you get him on the field, he does nothing. He pretty much can't even be used as a material. So he's the only one that I would not consider to run. Metalfoes Orichalk we can consider to run as well. It has 2800 attack, which is pretty decent, and its effect is dealing double piercing damage. So this could do quite a lot of damage. If they have a 0 defense monster on the field in defense mode, this guy is going to be piercing for 5600 straight up. Orichalk also has a second effect. If it is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. So if we synchro with this guy into a higher level, such as Chelfing, or if we made Baxia a level 8 tuner with Zefraxi, we can make Ultimaya with this guy. Both of these actions will trigger his Pop 1 effect. Now Pop 1 is not that significant, and very rarely would it be super beneficial to go out of your way and trigger this effect, but it is there if you want to do that. Being level 8, it is however more likely to be overlaid into a rank 8 such as Hope Harbinger, in which case the second effect would not be triggered since it never left the field. It's slightly harder to summon in Adamante because it requires 2 Metalfoes monsters. Unlike Crimson Knight, it has a relatively useful level, and unlike the other two, it also has 2 pretty mundane but at least existent effects. That is the introduction to the current Metalfoes pool that we have. Before this video ends, I would like to show you the basic Metalfoes. Alright, so the most basic of all Metalfoes combos does exactly what we accomplish with 5 cards except with 4 cards, and it does it slightly better and more efficiently as well. With this combo, we are going to need 3 Yangzing cards and 1 Metalfoe. At least one of the Yangzing cards must be one of our main deck monsters, so that when we pop it with the Metalfoe, we can have access to Jiaotu. Now, assuming the 5th card is a brick card which does not contribute to anything, so let's just get into this combo. First of all, we're going to normal summon our Yangzing and activate our Metalfoe Pendulum Scale. In this example, Gold Driver is going to destroy Pulao and set directly from our deck Metalfoes combination. Pulao is going to trigger here and special summon Jiaotu. Next up, we're going to discard our 2 Yangzing cards in our hands. This lets us summon Chiwen, as well as Zephyr from our deck. Synchro summon the Zephyr and Jiaotu into the first Baxia. Baxia is going to go ahead and destroy the Chiwen to summon Jiaotu from the graveyard. Chiwen triggers, summoning Zephyr from our deck. Synchro summon Zephyr and Jiaotu for the second Baxia. The second Baxia is going to destroy combination to summon Yangzing that we have not used yet in our graveyard. In this case, Big C. Don't worry if you did not discard another Yangzing monster. We could simply switch up the order a bit, which I will show you after this combo is finished, to achieve the same results. Anyways, Metalfoes combination is going to trigger upon being destroyed to search us the opposite Metalfoes scale. So since we started off with a scale 1 here, we're going to search the scale 8 Volflame and set that into the pendulum scale. Here you can overlay first or second, doesn't really matter, but overlaying first does give you the 1 extra monster zone if the 5th card in your hand is a monster that you want to pendulum summon. Here we do not have a 5th card, we only have 2 monsters to pendulum summon, so it didn't really matter. We pendulum summon our 2 Zephyr Zephyr triggers on pendulum summon, searching our Zephyr Divine Strike. We have not used Volflame yet, so we're going to use Volflame to destroy Bixie. And this sets either the second combination if you're running that, or if you're not and you're running the fusion instead, set the fusion. Bixie triggers to summon another Jiaotu from our deck, synchro our Zephyr and Jiaotu into the 3rd Baxia. The 3rd Baxia destroys our Metalfoes fusion, getting back Jiaotu and Zephyr makes our Void Ogre Dragon. It's a very standard combo, ending on 3 negates and an additional Baxia, with 2 Zephyr in the extra deck ready to go for next turn. Requires 4 cards instead of 5, so that's a slight consistency booster, as well as power booster, because you have the 5th card to potentially either make your combo go further, or even give you another negate. That 5th card could have been a Solemn Strike, for example. Also, we did not sacrifice our pendulum scales to do this. We still have our scales set from 1 to 8 intact on the field. And don't forget, we have our Metalfoes fusion in the graveyard, which we can shuffle back at any time to draw one card. Probably you don't want to shuffle it back right now, in this case, since drawing a monster that you can't summon would render Void Ogre Dragon useless. But next turn, you're going to be getting 2 top decks, as well as a Pendulum Summon and a Baxia's Monster Reborn. Now, if we did not open the second poppable Yangzing, we can simply do it in a slightly different order for the same results. So our opening hand this time is going to be Both Lane, Jiaotu, Yangzing Path, and let's say Zefraxi. So we did not open 2 poppable Yangzings. What can we do here? Well, first up, we're going to summon the Jiaotu and discard our 2 Yangzings. This summons Zephyr and Chiwen from the deck. Activate our Metalfoes Pendulum Scale. This will destroy Chiwen, setting the combination. Chiwen is going to trigger, summoning another random Yangzing, such as Bixie. Jiaotu and Zephyr makes our first Baxia. Now we are going to use Baxia straight away to pop the combination and grab our Jiaotu from the graveyard. Combination is going to get our second scale. So since we started with a scale 8, we're going to get a scale 1 such as Gold Driver and set the pendulum scale. Gold Driver is going to destroy Bixie to set Metalfoes Fusion from the deck. Bixie is going to trigger, summoning a Zephyr from the deck. Next up, we're going to Synchro Summon for our second Baxia. The second Baxia is going to destroy the Fusion or the second combination that we set for Jiaotu. Again, since we only have a 4 card hand, it doesn't matter if we overlay first or second, but I'm just going to go ahead and make the Hope Harbinger right now. If you want to use the Fusion this turn, you should use it right now, assuming the 5th card is not a monster. Using it at this point, before you Pendulum Summon, means if you draw a monster, you can Pendulum summon it, and it would not interfere with Void Ogre Dragon. Drawing a spell trap, obviously, you can just continue as normal and set that spell or trap card that you just drew. Now the only and main concern we have at this point is the possibility of drawing a level 1 such as Pulao, which we obviously cannot Pendulum Summon since scales don't go down to 0, and we might not be able to get it out of our hand. But anyways, that aside, continuing with the combo, we're going to Pendulum Summon our Zephyr search our Zephyr Divine Strike and set it. Synchro Summon into the third Baxia. The third Baxia, destroying one of our scales, summons Jiaotu again. Jiaotu, Zephyr makes the Void Ogre Dragon. So again, 3 negates. We did lose a Pendulum Scale, but we also increased our extra deck size by 1, which is alright. If the Metalfoes Fusion in this case was the second Metalfoes combination, we would have just searched our scale straight back. So instead of having the Fusion in the grave, we would have ended with full Pendulum Scales instead. So that has been the basic Metalfoes Yangzing combo, which I'm sure quite a few of you guys should already know. It's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Join me next time where I go over some more advanced Metalfoes Yangzing combos, where we include Chi-Win into the mix, where we include the potential fifth combo piece into the mix, and where we include some weird main or extra deck side choices that you would usually not expect to run in this deck. If you want a sneak preview on these combos, in the description box there is a link to some forums which myself and others discuss deck choices and combos. Recently, there has been some pretty good discussion, and if you can't wait for my next video, I suggest you can check that out.